To take a look at the promised knight Ge2 line against d6. e4, c5, knight c3, d6, knight Ge2. Let's stop here and make it clear why this move order is trickier than the ordinary g3, because it's completely obvious that our bishop on f1 will develop on g2 via g3, so why not to start with g3, and why do we start with knight ge2? First of all, let me tell you that knight ge2 keeps all options open. And when I say that all options are open, I always mean that you can anytime transpose into open Sicilian, which for your opponent is a bit annoying, because if he is an neither player, he would play here knight f6. He cannot go g6 because then he has to be ready for the dragon when you can play d4. Or he can go a6 if he wants to be the neither, if he wants to get the neither, because after d4, cd4, knight d4, and knight f6, we will transpose into the neither. Knight ge2, knight f6. And what did white gain with it? Why this was so important? Well, we just avoided one tiny line, and I like to make it as narrow as possible, so I love avoiding lines, because the knight is already on f6, and there is no option for black to develop and to have a setup of knight c6, g6, e6, and knight e7. That's a good thing, I think. Knight f6, g3, g6, bishop g2, bishop g7, castle, castle, d3, and knight c6. Let's stop here once again, because this is the key position of the closed Sicilian of this setup. You can get this position from many move orders. And here I want to show you, and I want to introduce many options for white here. Because like this, you will understand the plans, you will understand the nuances of the position, and you will get the soul of the position. So if you're driven into a new line, then you will have a much better understanding, and you can find there the correct plan. At least I believe so. After knight c6, white does have a lot of options, and I will keep for now the main one, which I am going to recommend you. Let's start with the favorite move of Fabiano Caruana, who is playing this exact move order and nearly always plays a3 in this line. After a3, rook b8. Of course, the point of the position is to create something on the side, either on queen's side or on the king side. Black also wants to do the same, so after rook b8, he's planning to go b5. And now either rook b1 or b4. Directly b4 wouldn't be that great, because after taking on b4, taking a knight b4, rook a7, knight c6, rook a1, and b5, I don't think that white achieved much. It's just the position is more simplified, and the b5, b4 for white is pretty annoying. This bishop on g7 diagonal is also quite ambitious, and probably white has to play here either rook b1 or bishop b2, but I'm completely sure that black is doing very fine, and he does not have any problems. So this does not create problems for white, and after a3, rook b8, rook b1, which Fabiano is playing, b5, he wants to meet b5 with b4. If, let's say, not b5 and b6, then of course after b4, bishop b7, and knight d5, the position is pretty complicated, but I think this complications is in favor of white. So I think that b5 is very principled way to meet rook b1, and b4, c takes b4, a takes b4. I'm not recommending this exact line to play with white here, because I think that after c takes b4, a takes b4, and a5, black is doing probably very, very fine. B takes a5, you have to take, otherwise knight will take on b4. b4, knight d5, and queen a5. We got kind of similar position what we could get from the line without rook b1 and b4 directly, but I think that white did not manage to create any problems for black, and I really like this pawn on b4. I don't think it's a weakness. It's supported with many pieces, and if we exchange the knights, then of course it's not going to be great for white. And if we keep the knight and let's say regroup it on c4, then black also has his play, and after knight g4, trading pieces is good for him. Knight c4 and queen h5, it will be white who will have a little bit of problems to solve on the king side. So this is why I'm not recommending you to play a3 for advantage, but of course it's pretty playable position. So if you like this position for white, then you should go for it. Now let's take a look at another developing moves, like let's say bishop g5, because our bishop is not developed, and the first thing that should come to one's mind is to finish the development. Bishop g5 is one of the options, and after rook b8, queen d2, there is possibility of playing a4 as well, to include a4, a6. Usually including a4, a6 is good for white, because after a4, a6 and b5, when we take the pawn on b5, sorry for the wrong arrows, then the a file is open, and usually it's good for white. But the position is very concrete, so after a4, a6, queen d2, this battery is very usual, because black wants to, maybe once wants to kick out this bishop on g5, so queen d2 does not allow it. b5, a takes b5, a takes b5, and let's say bishop h6. There are other moves, of course. For example, knight d1. This is very, very normal plan for white. Prophylactic move a bit to not to be under attack after b4. b4, f4, and bishop b7. Very double-edged position. White can go knight e3, h6, but then after h6 he either has to give up the bishop on f6, which I think is a terrible decision, or has to go on h4, but still this bishop on h4, I think it's a bit clumsy, and black has several options here, either to go knight d7 and regroup somehow, or to go rook e8. Anyhow, I don't think this is a big deal for black. Possible to play for white. If you like it, you are free to play, but I myself would stick to my main recommendation. So AB, but anyway, let's take a look at this. For example, bishop h6, queen h6, and b4, knight d1, and e5. e5 is a very, very important move, because if, let's say, black plays the normal bishop b7, then after knight e3, e5 would not be an option anymore because of f4, and there is no more annoying knight g4 going on there, because after e5, we cannot go f4, because after f4 there is knight g4. And if we go knight e3, then knight d4. So this knight is hanging here, everything in tempo. If we take on d4, then after cd4, our knight will be a bit confused in the center, what to do, where to go. And if we play, let's say, knight rook e1, then just normal development for black. Bishop e6, black is doing pretty fine. This is the line of bishop g5, also possibility for white to play, but for me, personally, I'd like to keep more pieces on the board, and I'd like to have some clear attack on the king side, rather than having this bishop a bit awkwardly placed on g5, because after f4 it gets under h6, then it has to go on h4, so I would not do that. Now let's take a look at bishop e3, which is another logical move. Rook b8, and after queen d2 we run into knight g4, so that's not good, and we don't want to lose a tempo playing h3 to avoid knight g4, because then black will be pretty fast on the queen side. So also not bishop e3. And now let's take a look at another move, a4. After a4, rook b8 and f4, we will transpose into something I will show you later. So after knight c6, now I want to show you the main move, which was a game between Bahadur Jobava and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. As you know, Maxime is an expert Nge2 player, so Grishuk chose to play knight c3 against him, and also Jobava chose to play the closed Sicilian against him. So it's definitely very interesting choice, this closed Sicilian to play against Sicilian and Nge2 players. So the move here I want to show you for now, which is not my main recommendation, and I will explain it why, is move h3. I'd like to postpone this move, and let me explain you the idea why I am doing it. Because after h3, rook b8, all very normal, f4, let's say you can also play a4 to stop the b5 right now, and if black here played the normal a6, then we would transpose into my main recommendation, main line, and I would be very happy. But on a4, Maxime had a very, very nice idea which he played in the game, and I'm sure that after a4 he would do the same. After a4, knight e8, a very tricky move. What does black want? Bishop e3, normal development, and knight d4. Black has to go knight d4 here, because after knight c7 we would want to go d4. We don't have f4 yet, so there is a possibility to go d4 and open the center. So that's not that great for black. After bishop e3, knight d4 should be the move, f4 and knight c7. Bishop f2, now we would like to take on d4, as you can see, before it was not possible, because after knight d4, c4, it is a fork, and we don't want to give up our bishop for the knight, definitely not. So bishop f2, prophylactic move, knight e2, queen e2, and b5. This is black's idea, and this is the idea which I want to avoid with white, because I think that for black it's a very brave and very nice idea. AB, knight b5, the play becomes completely complicated, and these bishops just scare me. Knight d1, obviously. Rook, knight b5, rook b5, rook a7. Wouldn't it be great for us? Because after rook b2, I think the position is equal, but I would definitely choose to play with black here if I was to choose. Knight d1, knight d4, bishop d4, bishop d4, king h2, a6, c3, bishop g7, f5, and e6. So this is the position where I think black is doing very, very fine. And why? What is such good thing about black's position is that we don't have enough resources to create an attack on the king side, and I don't like that the b file is open and black can create a counterplay on the b file, while it is black to have pawn on a5 after a6 and b5, and the attack on the king side is not real, it's really unreal, and I don't see how our pieces can be consolidated. And I'm not saying that it's bad position for white, but I don't see white playing for an advantage. This was on a4, so you got now the main idea where I am going and what I want to recommend you. After h3, rook b8, and f4 was played in the game without a4. We just saw a4 right now. And once again, Maxim played this, I would say, brilliant knight e8, because the idea of regrouping knight e8, knight c7, and on a4, counter-attacking white with b5, opening the b file, is really wonderful for me. Knight e8, a4 was played in the game of Bahadur and Maxim. F5 is a possibility, of course, but F5 is always met with E6. We don't want to open the F file because then we don't have enough pieces to attack on the king side. And if we are not attacking on the king side or in the center, then we are lost on the queen side. I mean, lost in sense that it is black who will be faster there. If we play instead of a4, knight d5 to avoid knight c7 and b5 plans, then black goes just b5, knight e3, e6, and after g4, a5. This is the position which I consider to be very double-edged, to be like the true Sicilian position, close Sicilian, because white wants to attack on the king side, black is doing great job on the queen side, and the question is who will be first. What I don't like is that sometimes, not right now, but black has an defensive move. If white develops too much on the king side, sometimes there is an f5. I'm not saying at this moment because then the bishop will be open and so on, but white is trying to push on the king side with f5. Let's say now he can play knight g3 or f5. But black also has a dangerous attack on the queen side, because after, let's say, a4, he already wants to go a3. And if you play c3, then bishop b7, queen a5, and b4, it can be really very annoying for white. So this is why I think a4 was played in the game. Badur also played a4, knight c7, and f5. There is no time to wait. Badur decided to go all in. G4 would be, of course, a possibility. E6, so we would reach the same position. Bishop e3 is another move where b5 in AB knight b5 is still the same ideas for black. But let's take a look at the game. F5, e6, g4. And here in the game, ef5 was played. ef5, gf5, gf5, king h8. But I think that this is in white's favor to trade all the e pawns and g pawns and to have open files. I think it's in white's favor. Here Badur could play knight e4 with a very, very complicated double-edged play. Instead he played king h1, rook g8, knight e4, bishop e5, c3, and here queen h4 was played, but it was a blitz game in Leuven, so you cannot judge players for making mistakes. b6 has to be played in this position just to develop the bishop via b7, first development, and then take actions on the king side or queen side, because after queen h4, Badur had a great opportunity, and he did it. He played knight g1. He regrouped on knight f3, and then this bishop and the queen are a bit awkwardly placed. He definitely had a great position with an advantage, but in the end he blundered something and lost. But this is not that matters now with us, because we already know what do we want to achieve. We want to avoid this knight e8, knight c7 idea, because I think that's pretty annoying. That's why after knight c6, I want to start with f4. Black should go the same, rook b8, a4, and now that there is no knight e8, knight c7 line, and let's see why it's so. For example, if you go here knight e8, then white might be very fast on the king side with f5, and on knight c7 there is already some attack going on with bishop g5 and f6 in the air. If h6, then black is already making some weaknesses on the king side. For example, bishop e3, and if you go b5, the same line, then I would just take, and knight d5, or knight b5 with queen d2. I think that this is more favorable for white rather than having h3 with rather than losing tempo on h3. So this is the point, that after rook b8 and a4, black has to go a6, because after knight e8 we go very fast f5. h3. Now we can transpose into the line which was favorable for us, not to allow this knight e8, knight c7 and b5 without a6. Knight e8 still can be played, b5 also can be played, but the idea after b5 is that after e5, black will be in trouble, because this guy is hanging here and a knight on f6 as well. So black really has to go knight e8 to jump out, to jump out of e5 threats. Now we can play knight d5. It's nice to postpone a bit the development of the bishop on c1, because as you can see with these move orders, we are we are avoiding and we are disturbing black's plans. And I love it very much. This is kind of a strategy when you know what black wants and you are doing everything to avoid it. If we did not know that knight e8, knight c7, b5 is an option for black and is a great option for black, then white's play might be a little bit weird, because why are you coming first f4, then h3, then knight d5? Why don't you develop first? Because we want to disturb black's plans. We know what black is planning and we want to disturb it. After knight e8, knight d5, knight c7 would not be that logical anymore, because we can go knight b6. It closes the a file d8 diagonal and then a5, and black can forget about the b5. So after knight d5, e6, knight e3, b5, ab5, ab5, and g4. Now we can see that this knight from c3 is on e3. It's not under attack because b4 is not there with attack anymore. It is much more useful on e3 rather than on c3, because it is involved into the kingside attack. And after g4, I like g4. We could also start with f5, but what I don't like about f5 is that after ef, and knight e7, we have to make clear things on the king side. We anyway have to go g4, and after g takes f5, we cannot take back because it will be blocked with knight f6, and or king h8 also possible, because f6 is not threat. We can go knight g3 and we can play for compensation. This is a very, very difficult position, and if you turn on the engine here, you will not get super advantage for white. Of course, you will probably get some kind of 0-0-8 or 0-0-7, but important thing is that we sacrifice to the pawn, and you know that engines love materials. So if the engine is evaluating this position as an equal while you're pawn down, then it's definitely worth of trying. After knight g3, black has to take on g4, otherwise white will take on f5 with a piece, so it would be terrible for black. And white can either take hg or knight g4, which I like the most. Knight g4, bishop g4 is bad for black, because after queen g4, knight h5, everything comes. So bishop g4, not black has to bear this knight on g4. Let's say bishop e6 and knight h5. I think that white has a tremendous opportunity to create an attack on the king side, and this position is definitely worth of considering, as well as the AB g4, first bishop b7 and f5. These are the two options that I want to give you for this line, because I think, first of all, what we achieved with our strange move order is that we avoided knight e8, knight c7, b5 line, which is pretty annoying to let black have the open b file and have a counterattack on the queen side. He can develop on b file and double, triple there, and it's very, very annoying. We forced black to play a6. We opened the a file for our rook, and we already with tempos moved on, regrouped our knight from c3 to e3 to help the pawn advances on the king side. I personally would love to play this position with white. I don't think that black is worse here, but I do think that white's chances are better. If you agree with me, please try it and later let me know in comments how it went. See you in the next video.